Welcome to this tutorial that will introduce VCE Unit 3 Biology and look at the fundamental biomolecules that make up most of the life forms on planet Earth. This unit is referred to, or has the title, Signatures of Life, and the signatures of life refers to what it is that makes living things alive. Just what is it that we call life? What makes the difference between something that's living and non-living? And we're going to explore that over the next number of weeks as we look at the various molecules and the way they interact with each other, the various biochemical reactions that make living things alive. Some of the key biomolecules that we're going to focus on in this course are ones that you'll already be familiar with, I'm sure. So these are the molecules that are the carbohydrates, the lipids, proteins, and the nucleic acids. And of course there are other molecules, particularly inorganic molecules, small molecules, that are involved in making life forms work as well. And of course the key ingredient for much of it is the inorganic molecule, water. So water is essential for life, as are various other inorganic molecules, such as iron, magnesium, sodium, chlorine, potassium, are all key inorganic molecules that are involved in various aspects of living creatures. These four molecule groups here are organic molecules, and generally the definition of organic means that they contain carbon and are generally large and complex in nature. Inorganic molecules, on the other hand, usually do not contain carbon, with perhaps the exception of carbon dioxide, CO2, and generally are very simple in structure and small. Let's have a quick look at or an overview of the role played by the biomolecules. First of all, the carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates, as this little passage suggests, they act as a good source of energy, which you probably already know from your Year 11 biology. So they're involved, particularly glucose, in reactions like cellular respiration and so on. Sometimes the carbohydrates are involved in structural support, for example in molecules like cellulose and chitin or chitin. So it's the carbohydrates that provide the majority of the energy that you use every day to stay alive. The second group, the lipids, one of their key roles is energy storage, and some of them also have important structural roles. Some serve as hormones, which are chemical messengers in the body. They'll often store energy in the form of fat. And they also play a role in structures like cell membranes, particularly with molecules like cholesterol and so on. The next group, the proteins, are a key group in living things, and proteins have an enormous range of roles to play in living things. They're involved in the structure of organisms and cells. They're involved in cell communication. They're involved in cell defense and body defense. They're involved in transport. They're involved in regulation and so on. Proteins do a whole range of things that are absolutely critical to keeping things alive. And the last group, the nucleic acids, the key ones being, of course, DNA and RNA, which you'd be familiar with, provide the genetic blueprint for life. It's the nucleic acids that enable the production of things like proteins and the way cells work so that life can actually function. Let's have a very quick look at the chemistry of biomolecules, and the name of the science that involves the chemistry of biomolecules is biochemistry, which is a critical area of study in biology, particularly these days with molecular medicine. Understanding the chemistry of how individual cells work and how the molecules are involved in the working of cells has led to some of the greatest breakthroughs in modern medicine of all time. And we'll look at some of those as we move through this course. But just a couple of very, very basic ideas. Biomolecules, being organic molecules, are larger molecules, but even the biomolecules come in, if you like, big forms and small forms. So generally large molecules in chemical terms are described as polymers. They're made up of a number of smaller subunits, which we would refer to as monomers. So when you attach a whole lot of monomers together, so smaller molecules, so each of these is a monomer, then you create a polymer. So the process of stringing a whole lot of monomers together chemically, that is creating the energy bonds that hold them together, is the process of polymerization. So the building up of large molecules from smaller molecules involves polymerization. So you need to add energy into making a larger molecule by stringing a whole lot of small molecules together. Likewise, you can break large molecules apart by breaking the bonds between the smaller monomers, and this will make the large molecule smaller. And of course, this basic chemical model works for the carbohydrates, lipids, proteins and nucleic acids, and we'll explore each of those as we move through each of those different groups. So we'll leave the basic biochemistry of those molecules at that point, and our next tutorial will look at each of the basic biomolecules in turn: the carbohydrates, the lipids, the proteins and the nucleic acids.